In a quiet corner of Africa where dusty roads wind through humble villages and children race barefoot under the sun, lives a young dreamer with a spark of genius that could change the world. Meet Kelvin, a teenager from Ghana who may one day be mentioned in the same breath as Elon Musk. Why? Because this young man did the unthinkable. He built an entire working car from scratch. No engineering degree, no fancy tools, no corporate funding. Just pure imagination, relentless passion, and scrap metal. Hi, I'm Kelvin. People call me the Elon Musk of Ghana. That title might seem like an exaggeration. But stay with us because by the end of this story, you'll understand why it fits. Kelvin was born and raised in a modest neighborhood in Ghana, where the average person earns less than $300 a month. He grew up surrounded not by high-tech laboratories, but by challenges, power outages, economic hardship, and limited access to formal education. But from a young age, he was different. Since I was 10 years old, I've had this passion for creating machines. I didn't go to engineering school. I taught myself. While most kids were playing football after school, Kelvin was in his garage building. Not because anyone told him to, but because something inside him refused to rest. Kelvin's first inventions were simple. A toy plane made from plastic bottles. A handcrafted vacuum cleaner cobbled together with wires and motors scavenged from broken radios. He would spend hours watching YouTube tutorials, reverse engineering old devices, and sketching wild designs in his notebook. He didn't need a classroom to learn. The world became his teacher. But Kelvin's imagination didn't stop at toys. At the age of 14, he set his eyes on a bigger dream. A real drivable car. Not just any car. A car he would build himself from scratch. The idea sounded insane, especially for someone with no money, no access to parts, and no formal training. Even his friends and neighbors thought he was losing his mind. People didn't understand what I was trying to do. Some tried to discourage me. Others said I was going mad. But Kelvin didn't listen. He started visiting local car shops, volunteering to sweep floors and clean tools just to learn how cars worked. He asked mechanics endless questions. He watched, he listened, he learned. Kelvin spent the next 4 years collecting parts from junkyards and construction sites. Every screw, every wire, every bolt was scavenged and repurposed. He turned garbage into gold. He worked part-time jobs carrying cement, helping builders, selling scrap metal, all to save money for the one part he couldn't build himself, the engine. I was doing minor jobs, construction, selling scrap. I needed money to buy the engine. 3 years later, at age 18, after countless failures, frustrations, and sleepless nights, the impossible became reality. He rolled out the Kelvin Mobile, his very own handmade car with butterfly doors like a Ferrari, an actual steering wheel, gear stick, headlights, and even a radio. The Kelvin Mobile is more than just a car. It's a symbol of what's possible when talent meets perseverance. Every time I take the car outside, people get excited. They take pictures. They smile. It motivates me to keep going. The entire project cost him less than $3,000. And yet what he built is priceless. In a town where few people even own a car, Kelvin now drives his own. One he built with his bare hands. But Kelvin is not stopping at one car. Just like Elon Musk, he dreams of electric vehicles. Cars that drive themselves. Vehicles that prevent accidents. Machines that save lives. My next dream is to build an electric car that drives itself and helps prevent injuries from accidents. His ambition doesn't stop on the road. He wants to go higher. Much higher. His ultimate goal? To build airplanes. And eventually rockets. Yes, rockets. Kelvin's story is a powerful reminder. Innovation doesn't belong to the rich. Brilliance isn't limited to billionaires. And genius can bloom in the most unlikely places. Think about it. A teenager with zero formal education. No financial support. No internet for much of his childhood. And yet he built a working vehicle with his own two hands. Imagine what he could do with proper tools, mentorship, and funding. What if Kelvin had been born in Silicon Valley instead of Ghana? Would he be building rockets at SpaceX? Designing self-driving AI systems? Revolutionizing transportation? Most likely, yes. But fate had other plans. For now, Kelvin is still in his small garage. Self-teaching. Experimenting. Dreaming. But what if the world paid attention? What if we stopped overlooking young geniuses like Kelvin simply because of where they were born? Kelvin's story isn't just about one boy. It's about a new generation of African inventors, thinkers, and changemakers who are rewriting the narrative. They don't want handouts. They want opportunity. They want investment. They want belief. Let's give them that. Let's spotlight the stories that matter. Let's support the Kelvins of the world. Because genius is everywhere. But opportunity, that's something we can create together. Kelvin's journey is just beginning. The road ahead is long. But his engine is fueled by something more powerful than gasoline. Hope, resilience, and unshakable belief in himself. One day the world may fly in planes he designed, drive in electric cars he built, and explore the stars in rockets that first began in a dusty garage in Ghana. Until then, we watch in awe. We cheer him on. And we wait for his next move. Because sometimes the next Elon Musk isn't born in California. He's born in Ghana. And his name is Kelvin. Support young innovators. Share this story. The first light of dawn paints the sky in hues of burnt orange and pale pink as it rises over the clustered rooftops of a small Ghanaian village nestled between rolling hills. A rooster's persistent crowing cuts through the morning stillness, soon joined by the rhythmic thud of mortar and pestle as women begin preparing the day's first meal. Barefoot children emerge from mud brick homes, their sleepy eyes blinking against the sun's glare as they chase a patched leather soccer ball down the winding dirt path that serves as the village's main artery. Among the boisterous group walks a lanky teenager whose deliberate pace and faraway expression set him apart from his playful peers, his attention captured by a gutted television set abandoned near the roadside. This is Kelvin O'Darty-I Lamptey, the 16-year-old whose extraordinary mind sees potential where others see only waste, whose fingers itch to disassemble and rebuild every mechanical object he encounters. While his friend's laughter fades into the distance, Kelvin crouches in the red earth, gently extracting the television circuit board with the reverence of an archaeologist uncovering ancient artifacts. His slender fingers, already bearing the nicks and calluses of countless projects, trace the board's copper pathways like a blind man reading poetry, decoding the story of electrons and resistance written in solder and silicon. Across the village, smoke begins curling from cooking fires as Kelvin carefully pockets several intact capacitors, his mind already racing through possible applications for these tiny energy reservoirs. The distant call of his mother's voice. "Kelvin, your breakfast is getting cold," barely registers as he examines a promising transformer coil, imagining it repurposed in a more ambitious project taking shape in his notebook. Inside the modest two-room home where clotheslines crisscross the cramped living space, Kelvin's porridge sits untouched as he sketches modifications to his latest invention under the dim glow of a kerosene lamp. The notebook's pages, warped by humidity and stained by oily fingerprints, contain a universe of ideas, from practical water pumps to fanciful flying machines, each design evolving through multiple iterations. At the village schoolhouse where peeling posters of the periodic table flutter in the breeze, Kelvin's teachers shake their heads at his distracted air, unaware that the equations he scribbles in the margins solve engineering problems beyond their curriculum. When the final bell rings, most students rush to the dusty football pitch, But Kelvin veers toward the scrapyard where the village's broken dreams go to die, his personal treasure trove. The yard's caretaker, an old man missing 2 fingers to a welding accident, nods at the regular visitor who spends hours sorting through rusted car parts and discarded appliances with the focus of a diamond hunter. Today's prize, a motorcycle engine block with intact cylinders, its pistons frozen by time and neglect but promising salvation through Kelvin's careful application of penetrating oil and elbow grease. As the sun dips below the baobab trees, casting long shadows across the yard, Kelvin struggles home with his heavy bounty, the engine's weight a small price for the possibilities it represents. His mother's exasperated sigh when he drags the greasy mass through their doorway is tempered by the proud smile she hides while watching him immediately begin disassembly on their packed earth floor. The neighbors' children press their faces against the window screen, mesmerized as Kelvin's hands move with surprising grace, dismantling the mechanical puzzle with an intuitive understanding of its inner logic. When the village generator sputters off at midnight, as it does each night, Kelvin continues working by the shaky light of a homemade battery lamp, its flickering glow illuminating his intense concentration. The motorcycle engine's rebirth begins at dawn when Kelvin discovers that a bicycle chain can be modified to drive the camshaft, solving a problem that had stumped him through the night. His triumphant shout brings running siblings who watch in awe as the rebuilt engine coughs to life, its uneven idle sending vibrations through their modest home's tin roof. This small victory fuels Kelvin's growing confidence, and soon his notebook fills with sketches for an even more audacious project, a complete automobile built from scavenged parts. The village elders chuckle when they hear of the boy's ambition, their laughter tinged with pity for what they see as childish fantasy in a place where few families own bicycles. Even Kelvin's closest friend, Kofi, tries to gently dissuade him, listing the countless obstacles. No money, no tools, no garage, no education, it's impossible, my brother. But impossibility is a concept Kelvin refuses to accept, and the next morning finds him at the roadside mechanic stall, offering to clean parts in exchange for lessons on suspension systems. The mechanic, a grizzled veteran of 20 years under hoods, initially shoos the persistent teen away until noticing Kelvin's uncanny ability to diagnose engine problems by sound alone. Their unlikely apprenticeship begins with Kelvin arriving daily before sunrise to organize tools, his sharp questions gradually eroding the older man's reluctance to share hard-won knowledge. Weeks pass with Kelvin absorbing everything from carburetor adjustments to electrical diagnostics, his hands growing more skilled with each repaired alternator and rebuilt starter motor. At home, his bed becomes a nest of library books on automotive engineering, their pages filled with his margin notes translating complex theories into practical applications. The breakthrough comes when Kelvin realizes an abandoned refrigerator compressor can be modified into an air conditioning unit for his planned car, a luxury none in the village have ever experienced. Scavenging becomes his second nature, bicycle chains repurposed as timing belts, washing machine drums transformed into gear housings, PVC pipes reborn as fluid lines. When the rainy season arrives, Kelvin works beneath a tarp stretched between mango trees, the downpours drumming competing with the clang of his makeshift anvil, a flattened railroad spike. His father, watching from the doorway one evening, slips him a week's wages, money meant for new shoes, with a quiet instruction, "Buy the welding rods you need." This unexpected support brings Kelvin to tears, the emotional release mingling with sweat and rain as he works through the night perfecting his first welded joint. The car's chassis takes shape from welded angle iron, its crude form gradually acquiring sophistication through Kelvin's relentless iterations and improvements. Village skepticism turns to cautious interest when the rolling frame emerges from Kelvin's workspace, its suspension articulating smoothly under test weights of concrete blocks. Children invent games around the mysterious project, daring each other to touch the growing creation while Kelvin pretends not to notice their fascinated interference. The electrical system becomes Kelvin's white whale, 3 months of frustrating failures before discovering that discarded computer power supplies can provide stable 12-volt current. When the rewired engine finally turns over on its own power, the village dogs howl in protest at the unfamiliar mechanical growl echoing through the night. Kelvin's hands shake as he watches the homemade tachometer dance, not from fear, but from the dawning realization that his impossible dream might actually work. The completed car, dubbed the Kelvin Mobile by his now supportive neighbors, becomes a village attraction when its butterfly doors rise for the first time. Local mechanics examine the hand-fabricated linkage system with professional admiration, tracing how bicycle brake cables operate the clever door mechanism. Even the chief comes to witness the maiden voyage, his ceremonial robes flapping as the car putters down the dirt road with Kelvin grinning behind the wheel. News spreads to the regional capital, where a journalist's viral video brings unexpected attention to the self-taught prodigy and his scrap metal masterpiece. University engineers arrive with measuring tapes and notepads, astonished to find advanced concepts like torque vectoring empirically implemented through bicycle sprockets and chains. Kelvin's quiet life transforms as interview requests pour in, yet he remains focused on his next vision, an electric version incorporating solar-charged batteries. His workshop expands with donated tools, though he still prefers certain handmade implements whose quirks he's memorized through countless hours of use. Late at night, when the visitors have gone, Kelvin pages through aerospace textbooks, his fingers tracing the contours of airfoils and rocket nozzles. The village children now bring him their broken toys not for repair, but for miraculous transformations, a radio into a metal detector, a clock into a speedometer. Kelvin's mother keeps her favorite creation, a food blender powered by a windshield wiper motor, displayed prominently in her otherwise traditional kitchen. When drought threatens the village crops, Kelvin diverts weeks from his automotive projects to build an irrigation pump for motorcycle parts, saving the harvest. His growing reputation attracts other young tinkerers, and soon the workshop buzzes with collaborative energy, ideas bouncing like sparks from a grinding wheel. The regional government offers a scholarship, but Kelvin negotiates instead for vocational training to share his skills with other underserved youth. His father, once hesitant about the unconventional path, now proudly displays newspaper clippings beside family photos on their otherwise bare walls. The Kelvin Mobile successors incorporate increasingly sophisticated systems, regenerative braking, GPS navigation, even a prototype autonomous driving module. International engineers visiting the humble workshop leave humbled, their advanced degrees seeming less impressive than Kelvin's intuitive grasp of mechanical harmony. At sunset, when the workshop quiets, Kelvin can sometimes be found staring at the emerging stars, his mind calculating escape velocities with numbers scratched in dirt. The road ahead remains uncertain, but each turn of a wrench, each sparked idea, each young mind inspired brings Kelvin's vision closer to reality. For in a world that often equates potential with privilege, Kelvin O'Darty Lamptey stands as living proof that genius thrives where passion meets perseverance. And as his story spreads across continents, it carries an undeniable truth. The next great innovations won't come solely from Silicon Valley labs. They'll emerge from places the world has overlooked, forged by hands that create miracles from what others discard. They'll be built by the Kelvins.